Hey, everybody, Economic Ninja here. I hope you're doing great. If you could tell who's next to me right there, it's Andy Schectman of Miles Franklin. Andy, how you doing?
Good to be back. Good to see you. I'm well. Hope you are too.
I'm trying to stay in there. So, guys, we're going to be talking today about Fednow, the Federal Reserve's form of the digital dollar, or the CBDC. There's a lot of people that are really afraid about banks changing over. They're going to do it without your permission. Trust me, banks do all kinds of crap without your permission. And Andy and I are going to talk about that today. So, Andy, what do you know about the CBDC that just was released through the Fednow website?
Well, I think it's the foray into the central bank digital currency. To me, what Fednow is Zelle and Venmo on steroids, instant settling. And I think that it will indoctrinate people into or make them a little more comfortable with what will ultimately be the full-fledged CBDC because of settlement, where you can, if you're working for a corporation like Microsoft, let's say, and Microsoft says, hey, in order to get paid, you need to take FedNow, you're going to get your check the minute they send it. It's in your account. Or as a precious metals company, I could understand the utility where, someone calls you on a Sunday night and says, hey, I'm scared with what I see on the news. I see Saudi Arabia is going to announce that they're going to take other currencies for oil. And I'm afraid to see what happens when the markets open tomorrow. I'd like to buy $2 million worth of gold. I'm going to Fed you right now, and bang, it's in your account. There are utilities that I could see that would come from an instant settlement like Zelle, like Venmo. At what expense is the question. And I've read that there are other things related to it where they haven't really thought it out yet, where in terms of fraud or identity theft, where when you send it, once it's sent, they can't pull it back, and they're still working on that. So, look, I think the bottom line is this: the BIS, the Bank of International Settlements, said every single country needs to have an operational CBDC by 2025. And I read that 95% of the global domestic product, or the countries that make up 95% globally, have already begun development in various stages of a CBDC. So FedNow, it's kind of like the appetizer before the main course. It's getting people used to it, but the real full-fledged CBDC, that's coming in maybe within the next year or so.
I am so glad you brought up Zelle, because everything you read is correct and right on. And this is why there is truth to the system and a misinformation or propaganda sort of aisle. That aisle is set up with news articles to make it feel like it's okay, it's normal. But there is something a bit different. So Zelle, PayPal, Venmo, companies like that are third-party intermediaries, meaning that they cannot settle the transaction. They still need the bank-to-bank transaction to be settled. But what they do is they are the instant, they are like a new style, for lack of better terms, and to ease people into this understanding. It is like a Swift code on cocaine, right? They have their messaging apps, they are rock solid, and they have agreements with these banks to be able to, and it seems like almost instantly, you pay someone on PayPal, bing, it's there. But it still takes the bank to be able to fundamentally close that transaction. FedNow is an interesting prospect because the Federal Reserve is now the bank. It's the one bank. And what people don't realize about CBDCs, this was actually hatched a long time ago, and all of the code base for all the CBDCs around the world have the same basic level of code base, thus making all the currencies alike, thus lining up with the world and world currency. Most people don't understand it, will never even understand it once all of the CBDCs are done and complete. Why? Because, oh, they're different. That one's called the US dollars digital currency. That one's called the yuan digital currency. What they will not know is that the code base is identical. And the Federal Reserve does, and it'll be the first time in history, they do have the ability to pull back and change transactions. And it's interesting because we have that ability now with Swift, and to think that technology has been around since what, the 50s. It's a lot faster now. So it is crazy. Now, let me ask you this, because you've probably seen some information on the YouTube channels or the internet about a lot of people saying that the Federal Reserve is going to change your account without even you knowing it. What is your opinion on that theory? And not only that, do you think that banks have been changing your accounts for decades anyway without you knowing about it?
I don't know that they have. I have not heard that. I mean, I don't know that they're going to mandate your be required to switch to the FedNow system as opposed to sending a wire or a check. or an ACH. I think that if they were wise, they would start out slowly and offer it alongside as a parallel, as an accoutrement, if you will, and
Yes.
where you will see some people will use it and say, geez, it really was very convenient. Slowly bring it on board. I haven't heard anyone, in fact, I've only seen that there's about a dozen or so banks that have accepted it already. Now, I don't know, and I haven't heard if they're mandating it, because I don't know what you have to have on the other side in order to accept it.
Yep.
So I haven't heard that. But where I do think that the acceptance will grow would be like a corporation like Microsoft. And if you look at a lot of the patents that Bill Gates has related to the central bank digital currencies, Nomi Prince did a wonderful video on this. You can see it would be in his best interest to promote it. And they could say, look, every one of our employees, it is a condition of employment. You must take Fednow. It'll be less friction. It'll be much more expedient. It costs us less. We want you to take Fednow in order to get paid every 2 weeks.
Yes.
I can see things like that happening where
Yes.
your employer mandates it. Honestly, I haven't heard of anything, or maybe I'm just behind on this yet, where the banks will mandate that you take it or else, where we have no choice.
So you're not, Andy, behind. And I'm so glad you answered the question that way. And the reason why is because so many people are moving into panic mode, and they don't understand that that is not how you push a new system on a people. You never go all at once. There's all these talk around the internet that says when the government gives money to the people, they will do it with Fednow, and that'll be a really easy one. It's like a great drug dealer. The first one's free, the next one's going to cost you. They're just going to say, hey, you want 10 grand? Download this app, put in your personal information, scan your retina, all this crap, you're going to get some money. And a lot of people are going to do it. And I explain it as a customer acquisition cost. But Andy, you think different than most people. You understand the history of money and that people don't get forced, because if they get forced, they usually rebel. And so I'm glad you answered the question that way, because I'm afraid that people are going to panic and make dumb decisions based off of fear.
Yeah, I agree, and completely. I will say this, though. I have felt for a very long time that there is a probability, um, and this is just, again, off the top of my head, a probability that you will see some sort of an event, maybe triggered by the banks, by bail-ins, by panic, which will incentivize people, whether it be through, well, let me just finish my train of thought, and you'll see where I'm going with this. It will incentivize people to take the CBDC, because look, you look at the unfunded liabilities in this country, the 130, 40 trillion, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, government and military pensions, it's all owed to us, the people. And if there is a problem, some sort of an event where we see markets collapse, interest rates spike, Saudi Arabia dump dollars and say or OPEC, we're only going to take the new digital yuan and that's convertible into gold, or maybe somewhere down the road, some new BRICS settlement currency or whatever it is. And there's that event where interest rates spike and markets collapse and people just get hammered, and bonds go up, and there's or the interest rates go up and the bonds default. Oh, have no fear. Lael Brainerd and her central bank digital currency are here. The #2 economic advisor to the White House, Lael Brainerd, who is a modern monetary theorist, who is the point person for Fednow, who has worked with MIT in development of the new central bank digital currency, who would rather see a culling of the banks so that the central bank is the entity that delivers both monetary and fiscal policy directly to your phone, directly from the central bank. That is what she would like. And whether or not that happens, in my mind, I think of guys like you and me who would be very reluctant to take a central bank digital currency if we had our choice, because, you know, the unintended loss of privacy and liberties, and in fact, the ability to get your money turned off or paused, or all of these things that make a central bank digital currency so frightening. I think if you're given a choice, a lot of people won't do it. But if you are frightened into taking it or incentivized into taking it after receiving a massive loss, Social Security goes upside down. Don't worry, take the new central bank digital currency, you'll get your payments. Whatever it is, I could see that happening, but I don't think we will be forced into taking it. I think we will beg to take it. And I hope I'm wrong, but that's in the back of my mind what I have always thought would be the ultimate outcome with the central bank digital currency in this country.
Yeah, talking about guys like you and I, we're going to be together in Las Vegas at the end of September. And you and I have joked around before when we're having a drink or just chatting with our friends. Some of the stuff that comes out of our mouths, it's like we couldn't put this on YouTube. And I'll put some links down, everyone, below to the event, the Silver Symposium that me and Andy will be at with a host of amazing speakers. But I'm actually asking for one of my talks to go off into a secondary room because I don't think everyone's going to be ready to mentally take in what I have to say. It's gonna anger a lot of people, quite frankly. What do you think about some of the things right now that are just sort of blowing your mind that we can talk on with YouTube before we wrap this up? Because I know we got another video to do on BRICS, but let's talk about like what was blowing your mind right now when it comes to either the CBDC or how propaganda is being spilled or what people don't get.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time the last 3 years focusing on the BRICS and focusing on Saudi Arabia and OPEC and the ramifications of weaponizing the dollar and pushing away what is in essence the linchpin of the dollar hegemony, the petrodollar, Saudi Arabia, OPEC. We've gone to great lengths to do that by weaponizing the dollar, by mismanaging the world reserve currency and telling the world in Saudi Arabia we're going green. But there's a bigger piece to it that to me has been far more concerning. We go back to 2020, the pandemic freaked everyone out. What freaked me out the most was the censorship that went along with it, where when I would come on your show, I couldn't say Hunter Biden. I couldn't say, the pervasive sickness, whatever. I couldn't say what it really was because of risk of that.
Yeah.
To me, the biggest issue that has me the most concerned is the divisiveness that we see in this country, where I've been saying this statement a lot lately, where people have tied together inner tubes with string to flow across an ocean, risk life and death in order to find liberty and justice. And I wonder how many people really truly believe that justice and liberty is being administered equally in this country. And I grew up at a period of time where you just respected people. You didn't have to celebrate them. If you knew someone was gay, that's fine. You can still be friends with them and you can still respect them, but you don't have to celebrate them. This obsession with transgenderism, this obsession with cancel culture, this obsession with these types of things, including the erosion of what this country stands for, liberty and justice, where we don't even say the Pledge of Allegiance in elementary school anymore, where we don't do things like Halloween in kindergarten or first grade in the school because it offends some people, where the things that made this country great, the fabric of this country is being frayed. And I know most people don't say that. I've been saying it a lot lately because to me, it's all part of a bigger picture. Do not think this is lost on our foes. The rest of the world says, who the hell have they become? Is liberty and is it being equally administered between former President Trump and the Biden family? I mean, how can you look anyone in the face and say they're applying the rule of law equally? You can't. And to me, that is the most frightening and disheartening thing of all, because we can talk about, yeah, we made a mistake in the way that our monetary policy screwed things up and we spent too much money. We just are bad stewards of the reserve currency. It's another thing altogether to deviate from what people have come to this country in search of since the beginning of this country. A fair justice, liberty, better opportunity. And you have to wonder, is that the way that we are viewed any longer? So to me, that is the biggest thing. And I think what is accelerating the de-dollarization and the ultimate demise of the singular world reserve status of the US dollar, because we are deviating from what we stand for. And I think it's scaring a lot of people around the world who once looked at the US as that beacon of light and safety and liberty. And those things are, I hope I'm wrong. I hope we find a way back. But what I've seen lately has really got me very concerned.
Hey, when we're talking about the last president and the president now, one family drinks Coke and one family snorts it. I mean, there's a big difference here. It's
Look, you don't have to be someone who's ever done cocaine to know that if you have a plastic baggie, your fingerprints are all over it. So you're saying the best and brightest people in the United States, the Secret Service, actually thought that that was some sort of dangerous substance like anthrax and had to destroy it before they analyzed it? Yes, that's exactly right. It's insulting is what it is to me. And I don't care how you feel about President Trump or President Biden. It should be you are judged equally under the law. And
that's right. I care about right or wrong.
Right. And it's not happening. To me, that is the biggest issue we face because, you know, if we are no longer trusted at that level, well, what does it say for everything else that is important to this country or the world reserve status or anything that has made us who we are? The deviation away from the rule of law, to me, is what, look, one last thing. Traditionally, a banana republic would be anything over 100% debt to GDP. We're almost 130% debt to GDP. But what differentiates banana republic from not, in many respects, would be like a South American country who jails their political opposition. Well, geez, I mean, are we going down that road? Are we turning into something we would joke about?
Look at Nancy Pelosi the other day said that if Trump gets elected, America will cease to exist. But the sad thing is, there are crazy moronic idiots out there that actually believe Skeletor.
Yeah, right. I understand that. And well, and that to me, when you ask, are there things that are bothering you that we're really probably a little bit reluctant to talk about? That's what it is. And I stood up at the Rules Symposium and said just that. And because it's true, and people who are ignoring it are missing part of the bigger picture. If you only look at one piece, that's like focusing on BRICS without talking about Saudi Arabia. It's like talking about the whole big picture of what is eroding the fabric of what made this country great, and only focusing on the financial side. Well, you're missing the bigger picture, what's happening here. And together, it becomes a much, much bigger problem. And to think that the world isn't concerned about this and taking steps to distance themselves from this, I would disagree. And I think it's a really, really, maybe even equally as big of a problem as it is the financial side of things.
I completely agree. Well, since you already started talking about BRICS, let's end this now because we can get to the next interview. Everyone, I'm going to put discount links below to the Silver Symposium where Andy and I will be speaking. And if you think that's Andy Unleashed, get ready to see him in person. It'll be awesome. I can't wait. Andy, we'll see you soon.
See you, brother.
All right, we'll talk to you guys later. Ninja, out.